Hello, Ellen Bristol. How are
Hello,
you?
Taylor Franklin.
I don't know, today felt like a big, deep, billowy hello.
Oh, how sweet.
Well, hey, it's good to have you here. So today, you are Ellen Bristol. You are an executive coach. You are a sales coach. You've been running your own consultancy for what, like
26
25
years.
years? Okay, 26 years. And today we're going to talk about who the heck to sell things to, right? How do you identify your ideal customer profile, line up the right products or services for them, and like basically anything else on your mind today we can
For
talk
sure.
about, because I feel like every time we talk, there's all these knowledge bombs dropped on me, and we're going to drop them on some other people today.
Time for knowledge bombs to be
Time for knowledge
dropping.
bombs. And I've got the sun like shining, and I'm like super bright. I look like a ghost all of a sudden. So
Well,
I'm gonna,
dim
just
it down a little bit.
I
Watch
need
out there,
some. I
babe.
need some vitamin. Is it vitamin D or is it
It's
vitamin
vitamin D.
Vitamin D. I need some of that.
And I'm usually so pale, and I look like what I am, a Floridian, like I have a tan. Sorry, folks, I haven't been out of doors but for 2 seconds since the COVID
Neither have
pandemic.
I. So we're gonna roll
Let's
with
get
it.
serious here.
Let's I don't know. Let's get serious. So Ellen, let's talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then let's get into the topic
For
about
sure.
who the heck to sell whatever thing you want to sell to.
So, in the years before I launched Bristol Strategy Group, which was 1995, I worked for 20 years for Fortune 50 companies selling mainframe computers. Young people, you have to go to Google and look up what a mainframe is. But a mainframe usually costs a gajillion dollars. Okay. So let's just say my sales experience was not based on transactional sales. And before that, I did all kinds of wackadoodle things because I had no freaking idea what to do with myself. I was a professional dancer. I worked in a file room where the days before computers, you actually filed records on index cards. Okay. So poof, 1995 rolls along. I was working for one of the larger mainframe companies, which nobody has heard of anymore, Digital Equipment Corporation, and they laid me off because all of those big vertically integrated companies were dispersing. So the point of this story is I finally found my place, which is to be running my own show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And doing stuff I wanted to do because it was interesting and satisfied some creative itches that I had.
Mm.
So I gave a lot of thought when I was starting out. What do I really want to do with this business? Do I want to sell somebody else's stuff? Been there, done that. Do I want to, tick off the 9 million things I might have done with my business? And then I said, think about something real here. Where do you really have experience? Well, where I really had experience was in selling. But where I really, really had deep experience in was trying to answer the question, if I've been selling for so many decades and I've been so successful and I've been, wonderful, award-winning, cutest, neatest, whatever, and with naturally curly hair, how come I had such a love-hate relationship with my sales career? In other words, what's wrong with sales? And I literally paced a hole in our carpeting, walking back and forth for hours trying to answer that question. Hours, days, weeks, months. And I had a eureka moment remember, this is a long time ago. I had a eureka moment that it wasn't, how to overcome objections or how to generate a lead or how to make the initial phone call or write a thank you letter or any of that stuff. As important as those things may be, and they are important in their own context, there was something else missing and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then it was eureka, sales strategy, sales operations. So I had spent all those years working for these huge corporations, publicly traded. I had 5,000 peers, the sales team, when I worked for DEC, my last corporate overlord. And what I realized in a kind of disturbing moment of clarity was our instructions were, go out there and sell shit, and if you don't, you're going to answer to me. And if you do, your reward is to have your quota raised next year.
Yeah, you get to go on a vacation.
Yeah. For 3 days.
Yeah. With everyone you work with.
All right. And the reward after you go on that vacation is, hi, Ellen, Happy New Year. We're raising your quota from unbelievable to inconceivable.
Yeah, to the moon. Yeah.
Right. So thanks a lot, folks. So I kind of thought, wait a minute, and within a few years after I started this practice, I got introduced to the nonprofit sector. Now, I'm best known as a thought leader and expert, I say this with all due humility, in strategic fundraising. But the principles we're going to talk about here are they're sector agnostic. Yeah. These things, the stuff about who the heck are you going to sell to in the first place is for everybody. The big corporations tend to have better controls, but not. I actually think sometimes the size of big corporations gives them padding that small businesses don't have. So our flaws and weaknesses show up sooner. So what I'm trying to say is you're going to see best practices and proven practices alluded to in major corporations, but between you and me and then millions of people who are watching us right now, I don't really think their disciplines are that much better. Okay. Okay, so here's the deal.
Let's get into it. Drop it.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to just say I really like your story at the beginning for sharing the fact that you got into your own thing, but when you got laid off, a lot of people are doing that right now. A lot of people are doing that right now because of the pandemic. And I've talked to several different consultants who are like, you know what, got laid off, decided it was the right time to start my own thing. So I think this is such a relevant conversation based on the timing of a lot of people who are in this moment, in this seat right now, like you were, and saying, what do I do? What do I sell? Who do I sell it to? So
thanks for
great
that.
timing. Thank you, Ellen Bristol.
It was a mistake, honestly.
You were tired of mainframes. Let's be real. You were just tired of.
Okay, so anyhow, in light of what you're saying, remember I mentioned pacing and pacing and pacing. You have no idea. We lived in a high rise, and we had this gigantic party room and fitness center in the basement. And I was the only one who used it. The place was empty all the time. I'd be down there with those giant flip chart pages written on the wall and trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with myself now that I get to be my own boss. And I'm going to give you the answer. end of all of that work was as follows. You have to have excruciating clarity on your value proposition. What is it you're going to do that'll make a difference to somebody or some institution, or make a difference in the world? Okay. Whether this is for-profit or non-profit, I'm not necessarily talking about your mission, but I've seen hundreds, literally, of websites for fundraising consultants, which is how I'm best known. And over I see, you should buy from us because collectively, if we line up all of our employees and 1099 subcontractors, we have 3 millennia of experience.
Yeah.
I don't know that I care about the fact that you have all that experience. Tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah. What do I get?
What do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And your experience may be a validating point, but it's not really what I want to buy. I want you to solve my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So can you tell me if you understand my freaking problem in the first place? And second of all, how you're going to solve it. So that's the value proposition. Dress it up any way you want to, the unique value proposition, the unique selling proposition, how you frame it. It's not about the cosmetics right now. It's just figuring out, okay, what am I going to sell to you and what are you going to buy from me?
Yeah. How do you get really clear? Can we tap into that a little bit? Because this is something I see people really struggle with easy. Is the clarity. Like they just go around and around and throw 1,000 ideas up against the wall and can never make up their minds. How do you get that clarity?
Well, you have to have a little humility and be willing to talk to strangers and ask for advice and network your brains out and do all this stuff where and this starts with your conversation with yourself and your conversation with your nearest and dearest for the 3 seconds they're willing to listen to you blather. And, but here's the thing. If you're a mid-career entrepreneur like I was, and like we're expecting a lot of people to be now, you got to think about what have you done in the past that you want to do more of or want to do it differently / better / in a more innovative manner. That's a good way to start this conversation. And I didn't really know a lot of this when I started out. So a critical piece of it was talking to other people who were more experienced as consultants. I didn't want to resell other people's technology products, although I have a deep, deep background in selling technology products. I knew I wanted to get involved in making life easier for people who generate income. It was as kind of foggy as that. But then I said, okay, how would I describe the problem I'm trying to solve? Right? And then how would I describe the solution I envision? And then this was a big, oh my God moment. If I can describe the problem and I can describe the solution, what mechanisms do I need to master in order to deliver the solution and not just seem like I'm making it up as I go along? The risks for me were, and I still fight them. Oh, sure, Ellen, come on in. We'll pay you, a pittance with a promise of more money on the commission end. You do the selling for us. Or you do the fundraising for us. I wasn't interested in that. So and I've heard a lot of mid-career entrepreneurs go through that. Oh, I'm going to hire you because you did such a great job as the executive of the such and such. But then they put you on an hourly rate and you're sitting around waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. That is not being a business owner. That is being an employee without a job, waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked this question because you cannot invest too much energy in figuring out what you're bringing to the market. Well, you actually can invest too much time because you don't want to get to the point where you're constantly perfecting it like a jeweler, you know?
Yeah. Because then you're never delivering.
You never deliver.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with something that you can wrap your arms around. And here's the trick, that the prospect can understand. I can tell you the first time I went on a sales call after I had figured out what this thing was that I was going to deliver, the guy was so patient. Of course, I didn't realize he was busily in the process of going under. I took 4 hours at his desk in front of him talking about what the problem was, validating it with him, and seeing if he could bite. That's not really a very good way to do a discovery call. Our friend Rafi Norberg can do it in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, I can.
So is that helpful?
Yeah. So, okay, so you determine the value prop, you land on something, you don't beat around the bush on that too long, right?
Right.
What's the next step then? So
the next step is figuring out 2 things. Who would buy this? And is there a place in the market for your brilliant new idea? In other words, and this was something somebody said to me back before, when I knew my number was coming up. I did something that I advise everybody to do. I went around and I talked to as many small business owners and entrepreneurs in the technology field as I could. And I asked them, why'd you go into business for yourself? What were you trying to prove? This, that, and the other. So the second, once you figure out the first stuff, the second stuff is who's going to throw money at this problem? That seems like a crude way to put it.
Yeah.
But it is really the heart of the matter. There are plenty of people who will be happy to listen to you and thrilled to death to hear your ideas. But is anybody going to hand you folding green?
Yeah.
It is this idea of yours solid enough for somebody to part with their hard-earned cash and consider the return on investment.
Yeah, and that also goes to that message is for for-profits and for nonprofits.
100%.
Yep. Just going back to your
100%.
earlier point, applicable to both.
100%. So now we're going to talk about who the heck do you really sell to, or do you really need to sell to? This is I cannot overemphasize the importance of this part of the puzzle. This is the keystone. This is it, baby. So you don't really know at first. You may have some ideas. So there's actually a common exercise performed by fundraising consultants and their clients, either when the nonprofit launches a major gift program, some way of raising money in big checks.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes referred to as a feasibility study, development assessment. There's a million terms for it. And for-profit businesses would be well served to learn the tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So you start by figuring out who's willing to talk to you, who's in a position to use the solution that you're thinking about. These people are not your buyers. These people are advisors, volunteers, mentors, coaches. They're like angel investors, whether they give you a nickel or not. So let's
coaching you through like almost like product market fit and like who will
correct.
Who actually will buy, maybe at what price, that sort of stuff.
That's a piece of it. So in Ellen's very peculiar mind, I see the ideal customer profile as having 3 components. Excuse me. One component is the factoids. Okay? So let's say you and I are going to get together. You're a marketer. I don't know what the hell to call myself.
We're going to figure that out, Ellen.
One of these days. So we're going to produce a new software technology, new software application. Tracking your kitty cat, okay? So who do we talk to first? First, we talk to cat owners. If you're a cat owner, maybe you already have a bunch of ideas. Then you want to talk to some of your bestest buddies who also have cats and say, what do you think of this idea? How would you use this? When would you use it? And eventually you get to how much would you be willing to pay for it? So those are some of the steps you take. There's a very complicated, well, it's actually not that complicated, but a fascinating model called attractive quality creation, devised by a Japanese management theorist named Noriaki Kano. Everybody, Kano, look up the Kano model. It's fascinating. And the point is that you got to find out if there is a market for your cat tracking software or whatever the heck else is coming up. So then we start to look at some more factoids. Sure, cat owners. First-time cat owners, people who have been owning cats for years and years and years, 12-year-old children or 6-year-old children who mommy gave their first kitten to. I mean, who's going to buy this stuff? And no matter what it is, there's always a variety of ways to figure it out. And a variety of prospective buyers. So you keep on working this notion by speaking to people who can be advising you, and also people who could conceivably buy your product. Now, I never heard this cliche until I got into the nonprofit sector, but what I've discovered is common saying is for fundraisers. Ask for advice, you'll get money. Ask for money, you'll get advice. Keep asking for advice, because if your idea is cool enough and appealing enough to have people part with their money and feel that it solves some kind of problem, they'll tell you how to sell to them. Now, so as I said, there are 3 pieces to the ideal customer profile. What are the facts describing that buyer? Is the buyer senior executive, middle manager, individual, line staff, whatever? What industry do they work in? Where do they live? What is their budget? How much do they spend on products like this? Blah, blah, blah. I'm giving examples primarily from the B2B world, but I hope I'm making sense here.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. So the facts are relatively easy because you can look up most of this stuff. If you're selling to a business, you can look at their website. You can look them up in Dun & Bradstreet. You can check them out on LinkedIn. And there's a whole bunch of ways to find out, okay, who's responsible for buying the solution that you think you want to offer? And this is when it really pays to have those conversations. Dear so-and-so, I know you don't know me. Would you do me a favor? Can you spare 30 minutes? This is not a sales call. I'm seeking advisors. Remember back in the day, we used to be able to go to actual networking functions. That was always a good place. The second piece of the ideal customer profile is often referred to in marketing lingo as the buyer persona. This gets to the psychographics of your buyer. What problems are they facing? How expensive are those problems? What would things look like if they solved the problem? Is solving the problem going to do something for their career? Right? Are they going to get in trouble for trying to solve a problem? This is hard to learn, but I like to tell people what you want to do is ask, do not ask, what do you think of my solution? Isn't it nifty? Ask, what's bothering you about having this problem? What are the downside risks? What are the consequences of having the problem? Another way to do that is if you've been selling your stuff for a while, you go to clients who already have shown that they like the solution, right? And you say, Fritz, do me a favor. I'm not here to sell you anything. Can you help me figure out, let's do a little forensic thinking here, what was going on before you signed up with us? Describe the reason why you were on the hunt to buy the whatever. What problem were you having that you were trying to solve? Did you have a vision of how the solution to the problem would impact you? Did you think about what the downside risk might be if you didn't solve the problem? And if you did think, whether you thought about it or not, what do you think would have happened if you couldn't have solved the problem? And why would that be important to you? So these things all go into play. When I look at, I think you know, Taylor, I'm a HubSpot user. I would only be a HubSpot user because I bought their stuff when they were so new in the market.
Hold on to that legacy pricing. Yeah. I gotta go use Zoho now, you know.
Yeah, right. But I've read a million templates about buyer persona, and they don't say what I think is important. What are the buyer's motivations for buying? How can you connect with the buyer on the emotional level? Because in the B2B world, people still buy on emotional reasons and defend their choices using more objective logic. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about what are the consequences if they don't buy. You know, I think that's a really good way to dig deeper into the problem and the solution.
Yeah, because the big aha moment comes when you realize you have persuaded the interviewee to step out of their predefined canned responses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I learned this a long time, long time ago. The minute you say you're there to sell somebody something, their shields are up.
Mm-hmm.
Their arms are crossed, and they're saying, no way, no way, no effing way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So somehow you have to interrupt that pattern and get them to develop a level of rapport that'll let them tell you, I really want to do this. I'm afraid that'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is bugging me. Sometimes, if you're really good at this stuff, you get to do something that the bean counters in the room are probably going to think I'm not saying this. I'd rather say to somebody, you really have a problem. I can't solve it for you.
Mm.
Your problem is not take this Ellen Bristol pill and you'll be over the problem. Your problem is take the Taylor pill or take the technology pill or go
Mm-hmm.
take a nap, you know? Don't take any pill.
Yeah, stuff.
So
red pill, blue pill scenario here. You need a nap.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have two elements of the ideal customer profile, the factoids and the motivations for buying.
Yeah.
Which include the fears and concerns about not buying, or rather not buying, but by not solving the problem.
Not doing something. Yeah.
Right. The third piece is knowing in advance the downside. I call them the danger signs. When you build an ideal customer profile, you should be able to document it, and you should be able to score prospects against it in a formal or not so formal way. In marketing communications technology, they do lead scoring. I think that's very useful, but I think its purpose is to knock down the obvious DOAs. And then you still have to qualify. But what you're looking for in your document that describes your ideal customer profile, you got to be looking for things that are either no, they say no to you. No, I don't really want you. You may have the right problem and the right budget and the right, address and everything else. But if you're hell-bent for leather on something that doesn't jive, that we find either difficult to manage, difficult to tolerate, or ethically repugnant, then sorry, Charlie, I'll lose your phone number.
Yeah.
So there's four pieces to this. One is really understanding your value proposition. What do you bring to the party? Who will it impact, and how will it impact them? And what do they have to invest in order to have it? And then there are the three pieces of the ideal customer profile. What is the fact profile they have to match? What are the buying or giving motivations they should match? And what are the danger signs? And the danger signs can either be an objection that you're prepared to manage, not overcome, manage, or they're a dead, no way, this is over, see on the far side. I worked with a number of Orthodox Jewish social service agencies, and they all shared a danger sign, which was anybody who demonstrated a problem with Orthodox Jewry. And by that, they meant, there are plenty of unaffiliated Jews. That means Jews like me who never go to synagogue and all, I'm just culturally Jewish, or more conventional Jews who don't buy into the curly earlocks and the unshaven beards and the the medieval dress and all this stuff, right? And so what they said was, if their donor prospects were ill at ease or distasteful or downright insulting about this faith tradition, it was not worth it to them to try and pull them over to. Now this organization provides services for children on the autism spectrum, and their clients are not all Jewish, but for the most part, their donors are. And this is one thing I wanted to add. The ideal customer profile is never 100% fixed. And you can always make exceptions. So, how much time do we have, Taylor?
We'll wrap in about 5 minutes or so. Is that good?
So there's one other thing I want to talk about regarding the ideal customer profile. And that is, if you're introducing something truly innovative, you need to think about the innovation adoption bell curve. Everybody knows what a bell curve is, but what it really means is, if you've come up with a new approach, and by the way, this is a place where I really failed. It took me a long time to overcome my failure to pay attention to what I'm about to describe. The earliest buyers of an innovation, over an innovative solution, are visionaries. And they're very happy to work with you and your product. They feel like they're partners. They don't mind if it doesn't have all the bells and the whistles and the fancy packaging, and it doesn't have the t-shirts and the action figures and all that jazz. But those people are invaluable for two reasons. One reason is they help you figure out what the main part of the market's going to buy. Second is they're funding your startup. But here's the creepy thing. If you don't understand how to sell to the visionary buyer, or even if you do understand how to sell to that visionary buyer, the same things that motivated the visionary buyer to buy don't work with the main part of the market. They're a turnoff to the main part of the market. So you have to be willing at various points in the life of your business or your practice to revise your understanding of the ideal customer profile.
So, sort of test and iterate things with those early adopters, right?
Correct.
So, you're talking about the bell curve, the diffusion of innovation is what I think about, and that good book talks all about that. But then be ready to pivot to the masses, to the people who aren't ready to try the things that aren't perfect yet. Right? The general population. The general population's problem might be a little bit different than the early adopters' problem.
Well, not only would the problem be a little bit different, the expectations on the part of the buyer are very different. The visionary buyer loves to be able to tinker with the solution with you. This is especially true in anything to do with technology. Oh, cool. You don't have a user interface yet? Oh, well, we can fiddle around with that.
Yeah.
But the rising curve of the bell curve, Those people want to know that the user interface is slick and it works and it's got eye candy and the help messages are easy to find. And oh, by the way, you have a fully stocked customer service department who actually knows what they're talking about. And you don't have to speak directly to the guy who coded the minimally viable.
Yeah.
So if you don't do this stuff, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting that flywheel to start turning over. You'll grind and grind and grind and grind, and you'll feel miserable, and you'll suffer from the consequences of the E-myth, and you'll go out of business, and you'll get a job, and you'll walk around the rest of your life feeling like you flopped. No.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. What we want you to do is understand who's going to buy from you and why. So I'm working with a business partner right now that is providing very interesting technology support. And they took their business in a different direction after I started to work with them. And they've got this really cool tech product. And they're having so much trouble getting their early buyers. So I have a date with them later this week to go over just what we did. Honey, this product isn't ready yet. You don't have all the nifty, cool help functions, and it breaks down a lot. So you need to be selling to people who don't mind that.
Yeah.
Next year, you can sell to people who want something snazzier than, I won't name the product, but just about everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
But they don't want to pay $20 million for the super duper high power version of this type of product. So you pace your business's growth to some extent based on the clarity you have about your ideal customer profile at the moment. And if you need to have more than one ideal customer profile, mazel tov. You should, but you still need to go through the same exacting, lonely and difficult process. It is not easy to craft an ideal customer profile. Don't be fooled just because somebody can publish a template that you can fill it out in 5 minutes and you'll have done anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on this for myself. I'm working on a visioning out a software platform as well, and like thinking through this, and I'm letting it ruminate for a while, talking to a lot of people, and testing a lot of things, and I'm taking my time with it because
that's the right way to go. It's
important. I think you're right to like just really make sure you get that customer profile right, to make sure that we can all have all these assumptions all day long in our heads that we think we know what the customer's problem is, but you got to really work with the customer first, I think, to really understand, okay, no, like, yeah, maybe that is their problem, or maybe there's 5 other problems I didn't know existed that are actually still in the same wheelhouse, but
they need to be taken care of.
A little bit different. It need to be taken into account first. Yeah, exactly.
100%. And, there's never a time in your business when you are less likely to jeopardize yourself. If you take your time now, Taylor, and you speak to 113 people, does this make sense? Does this make sense? Can I do this? How would people respond to this? Oh, you're a director of marketing. What would you think if? And all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can do it before the product gets launched.
Too big.
If you try and do it after the product gets launched,
yeah.
you know?
It's heavy. It's heavy.
It's
Yeah.
really heavy, man.
Yeah.
And I just was on a podcast where we were talking about this. A client in the nonprofit sector had put an incredible amount of time and money and energy into building a traveling healthcare clinic for school children without doing anything to figure out what it was going to cost and where the money was going to come from and if it was legal. So that's not a good mistake to make.
Yeah.
Make those mistakes while stuff is still in charcoal, you know, on a drawing pad, not after you built the freaking product.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. All right, Ellen.
Did we have fun?
We had fun. I had fun. I hope other people had fun. Did you have fun?
I always have fun with you.
I know. It never fails when we're together, you know? We are, by the way, I'm coming to Florida soon. I need to let you in on my details. Yeah, I'll be there in June. So.
Oh, cool.
You know, we can maybe do a walk outside or something.
Well, we can definitely go outside since we've both been vaccinated.
Exactly. And we both need sun. No.
All right, this was fun. Let's do it again.
Right. Hey, if people want to reach out to you about sales coaching, executive coaching, they need help doing that, the whole work on the value prop and ICP. What's the best way to get in touch?
Ellen at bristolstrategygroup.com.
Right.
I will also respond to messages on LinkedIn. I'm terrible about answering my phone. And these days I'm thinking, let's just call it business growth coaching.
Business growth coaching. Love it.
Because it's all about, it's not just about sales. It's about all this other stuff that doesn't seem like it's sales that we've been talking about here. It's sales strategy and then it's sales operations.
Totally. Well, I can testimonial here as someone who's gotten coaching from Ellen. She's the best. She's the best.
Thanks,
so reach out to Ellen Bristol, people, and thanks for joining us today. We hope this was helpful. We'll see you again next week. Next week, I am talking to Tim. I think next week is Tim Kachuriak about entrepreneurship. And
cool.
Learned. So that'll be a fun conversation.
Cool. Definitely. Yeah, I think this is going to be a time, just like in the mid-90s when the big vertically integrated IT companies were going through a diaspora. We're going to see another wave of small business startups. And we know more than we used to. And the technology for running a business gets cheaper and easier to use every day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what's going to keep the economy afloat and thriving.
Yeah.
All right. This was fun. Let's do it again.
We'll do it again.
Bye, people.